Well, that's a great question, and in the epilogue of the book, it covers the last event that recently occurred, which was a sibling family reunion. And I did attend the family reunion and went back and faced everyone,
All of them.
all nine brothers and sisters.
And how'd that go?
It went very well. It went very well. A lot of them are still in the same place they were when I was a kid. A lot of them still saw me as the little brother.
The baby.
Hold that thought, Mr. Richard. We're going to take a quick break from our sponsor, and we're going to hear more about that family reunion when we come back. Hang
and
tight.
the white magic.
And the white magic, yeah, definitely on that one. So we'll be right back. Hang tight. All right, everybody, and welcome back to Spiritually Raw. Thank you. And we have Mr. Richard with us. Hey, Sarge, what do you want to ask there? I know you wanted to jump in right before we went to break.
Well, I just wanted to jump in from the standpoint of kind of the white magic. I mean, the way that the story is leading, I want to see how it actually led into something as white magic. First of all, I don't know what white magic. I've heard of black magic.
So, Mr. Richard?
Okay, now
Yeah.
I'll take that question.
Yeah.
Okay,
you're on stage
to try to unpack it, unpackage or open up everything. I'll take you through a quick timeline. When I left home, I joined the military as a military police officer, and I sought out that male energy because I was questioning who I was, man or woman, and so I met my first wife. In the military. She was 13 years older than I, and once again, looking for a mother figure.
It seemed like that's the huge problem. That's what I did. About 5 years older than me in the military, I married her.
Right, and for me, that was my first marriage, my first real relationship. That marriage ended in a lesbian affair, and she left me for another woman she was working with.
Oh, that's a book in itself, right there.
Yeah,
man. Right, so
that should take up at least a chapter or two.
Right? Is that in the book?
Well, it does, and that further, kind of crushed my masculinity and my questions about sexuality. I met my second wife, and she immediately started questioning how that made me feel. Did I question my masculinity when that happened to me? And she was 4 years older than I was, but still a mother figure. She was more enlightened spiritually. She was into metaphysics. She was into healing. She was into counseling, and she started to kind of dissect and analyze me and kind of pick my brain apart to try to understand how I felt. With my first marriage that failed. And so that marriage went on for 22 years. And my second marriage being 22 years long, there was a tremendous amount of, it was kind of like living with your therapist for 22 years. And
what was it? Was it unsolicited therapy? Meaning that was the advice that she was giving you, or the trying to bring this out of you? Was it stuff that you were reaching out for, or was she just doing it, draw it out of you?
Probably 50-50. Probably 50-50. Some of it was asked for, some of it wasn't. She tried, to get me to make changes and understand my past, and she also was very adamant about me severing myself from my family. She identified me as being codependent, and that I needed to disconnect from my family completely because they were holding me back spiritually, and they were holding me back as far as my growth goes.
And how do you feel about that?
Well, I lost a lot of time. I lost a lot of time with my family. When my mother passed away, I missed her funeral because of that relationship.
Because of the relationship with your second wife.
Wow, that's huge.
Yeah, that was, and I missed the funeral. Because I made the choice to allow her to make that decision, and I didn't make it on my own.
Do you forgive your siblings in any way? I mean, like if you were to get together again and do this, I mean, is there when you see them at these events or family reunions, is there any
animosity?
You son of a bitch, or what I mean? Is there any of that? You know what I mean? Or are you completely at peace with all this?
That is, I am now, and that is that was kind of the purpose of the book. Um, the 22-year marriage, the last 10 years of that marriage was a non-physical relationship. We only lived in the same house, but there was no physical relationship. I was single for 10 years, but I was still married, and living in the same house. And that kind of leads into a process that I was going through, where I was trying to find little Robert, the little person in me, and I was working on trying to take control of him and take responsibility for him, and to become an adult. And that's what I was working on during that marriage. Okay. I left that marriage after a lot of trauma and a lot of things that went on in that marriage. During that marriage, we were on the road as full-time RVers, and we traveled around the country. And my second son was homeschooled, and we were traveling
hold
around.
on. What did you do for income when you were traveling around the country in the RV?
My second wife had a spellcasting business.
Now we're getting
All right,
somewhere.
now we broke it down.
Jeez,
And
okay.
She had an online spellcasting business, and that's how she made her living.
Why'd you leave that to the end? You should have pushed that right up to the beginning.
So people would then hire her to like cast these white magic spells. Is that what would happen?
Yes.
Got it. And then
Wait a minute.
would
So you would travel to people's homes and cast these spells?
No, it was an online spellcasting website. They would reach out to her, pay a fee, and she would cast the spell. Now, to clarify the white magic is magic and energy channeling of things like strength, spiritual enlightenment, empowerment, things of that nature. They had nothing to do with interfering with a person's free will. There were no curses. There were no, banishments. The spells that she did were all of a spiritual, positive nature.
What's the difference between that and praying?
Magic comes in.
What's the difference between that? What's the difference between performing white magic if it comes from a spiritual nature and just someone praying?
Or chanting.
I mean, can you give me can you give our audience just an example of what would go beyond the traditional someone praying and saying, hey, help me with this, whatever. I mean, were there stones, were there rocks, were there lotions, potions, shakes, kind of thing?
That's exactly that's when you said praying. That was exactly what she did. Is she did prayers, and she did sometimes she used stones, sometimes she used crystals, but she would do prayers and she would send the energy to them. Okay. For whatever particular, need that they had at the time.
And how much would she charge?
The prices range from $10 all the way up to maybe $50 to $75 per spellcast.
So was she a psychic, intuitive, a gypsy?
Psychic. She was psychic. She studied astrology, numerology, all the metaphysics that are out there, and she had spent her entire life in that area.
Now, you think that attributed to a lot of your issues?
Ooh.
Well, she saw me as another person to fix or to help or to enlighten.
Oh, so you were like her project.
I was her project along with her clients, and I did gain a lot of help. There was a lot of positive things that came out of that relationship,